We are here, we're doing this, they're doing that, but realistically, we all have a lot of the same struggles. We all suffer from the same ailments, and so we are so much alike, and yet we are so different.
They would get a chance to see outside of their own culture, but also a way of how it relates back to what they have at home and how they can make changes in their community.
There is something deeper that connects the emotions and the souls of all people.
In the spring of 2008, 11 performing artists from South Africa came to the United States on a State Department-sponsored exchange. The artists worked in different forms: hip-hop, theater, dance, poetry, music, video, and martial arts. They were all community activists who believed in the power of art to change young people's lives.
This particular exchange with South Africa was exciting to me because it involved an arts exchange with artists who were activists in their own communities and worked especially with young people.
And they wanted this to be a performing artists exchange, specifically to work in underserved communities in the U.S. and in South Africa.
Ingrid and I met because we shared a vision of bringing performing artist activists from Cape Town and the U.S. together, and we became partners in order to make that dream possible.
We wanted to empower young people living with racism, poverty, and oppression, whether they were trapped in the barren townships in Cape Town or the inner cities of New England. We believed that the arts could change their lives. We set some goals for the exchange: to build inner strength and self-esteem, develop teamwork and leadership skills, find their voices and use their talents in performance, learn to work creatively with challenges in their lives, and connect to and have a positive impact on their community. The first time the South African artists met their partners was at the Basilica in Springfield, Massachusetts. There was magic in the air. The serious work began that day as partners planned how they would work together at their designated community sites. The goals for the artists were to share their culture and their creative skills, as well as to build lasting relationships.
The first time Diana and I met was in Springfield. We talked a little bit about who we were as poets, as artists, as women in this world. There was an immediate connection that went beyond personhood and statehood. And later, when we were dancing together in the basement of a tabernacle in Springfield, Massachusetts, all the walls melted away.
Ayanda was my partner who was here, and then I guess through him, he was one of the people who voted for me to come back to his township in South Africa and do similar work with the young people. My first meeting with him there was it was a reunification of a brother. You know, it was really it was exciting to be in his town after watching him perform, act, study, learn, love in my town.
Different youth groups together and coming together for an exchange with some South African artists was what surprised me was how quickly and how soon we were able to bond. How we became family very quickly.
The kids got to experience the people from South Africa. That they had something to prove to another culture. They were like, you know, this is us here and this is how we do it, you know, and it became upbeat and a sense of pride and spirit took over.
There were youth in the Springfield area who had never worked with even other youth in Springfield, cultural centers, 2 blocks away from each other, and they had never stepped foot in each other's community centers. So this exchange opened doors like that just in the Springfield community.
The final show was back at the Basilica in Springfield. The young people came from Hartford, Connecticut, Holyoke, Springfield, and Amherst, Massachusetts. We called the show Izandi, after the Xhosa word Izani. It means a gathering where each tribe or member brings something to build the energy and feed the fire.
And you believe in all the miracle, then you will understand why we cannot be afraid, we cannot run away, we cannot be afraid, we cannot run away, yeah.
6 months later, when it was winter in Massachusetts but summer in Cape Town, the artist partners met again, this time in South Africa, at Artscape. Artscape, ITD's South African partner for the exchange, is a major performing arts complex in Cape Town. There, the work and the magic began again. In Cape Town, just as in Springfield, the walls came down. In the Black township of Langa, students from a neighboring colored township, Elsie's River, were bussed in for Pam Namora's poetry workshop.
And on the first day, when we picked up all the kids in Elsie's River, as we were entering Langa Township, which is only about 10 minutes away, I said, "So, who's been here before?" Not one. Not one. And we went into the workshop, like it is in cafeterias all across the US. The Langa kids sat on this side of the room, and the Elsie's River kids sat on this side of the room. And I said, no. This is who I am. Here's what we're here to do. Before we introduce ourselves, we need to pull into a circle. Because physicality helps us move not just chairs, but ourselves. And over time, very short time, they were talking to each other, and laughter and music, and pretty soon the adult artists from the community were just dropping in because it was really fun, and they loved seeing the young people doing this.
These ears is heard the words that was meant to break me. These lips will say the words that will set me free, and me, myself, and I will determine my destiny.
I was working primarily with Andile Venom, who is a dancer from South Africa and who is also deaf. I had done some work with the National Theatre of the Deaf in my past, so we had a common language in sign and in gesture that we used to communicate with each other. In Cape Town, it was a group of students who probably were told most of their lives that they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that, because they were wheelchair bound, or because they needed crutches to move, or because they didn't have the attention span to sustain any kind of academic achievement. So the goal there, and the thing those kids took away, was the achievement of making something that was theirs.
To move their bodies, to interact physically, as well as with the music of the words and the music of the gestures, there was a sense that we were creating something together that none of us had done before.
I participated in the South Africa Arts Exchange as a videographer. My partner was Beverly Mitchell, who's a well-known filmmaker in South Africa. We worked in Kensington, which is a colored township. The final product was an 8-minute video about violence in the school and violence at home. It was actually a very remarkable experience. The youth were very shy at first, but very dedicated. They would show up 10 minutes early, and then when we showed up on time, they would criticize us for being late. They're like, "You're late." It's like, "We're not late. We're on time. You guys are early."
I went to the Mamela Music Project, and Charles was a very influential partner. We were forced into a situation to teach music without instruments because the instruments had been stolen from the Mamela Music Project. So this once again put us in a challenge of how we were going to convey musical concepts to people without having the actual instruments, which we did through using their bodies and marching and singing and chanting and various ways that we wouldn't have normally tried to do. They, who had nothing, showed us what really was possible with nothing, and I still think about that on a regular basis.
It was just an interesting mix of just beautiful, ready to go young people. I was just so enriched by knowing them.
The Cape Town Zandi at Kensington High School was stunning. Everyone was so proud. But it was hard to realize that the exchange had come to an end. There were so many memories and so many more possibilities to be played out. The power and the magic of transformation was at work in this exchange in a way that I have very rarely seen happen.
We came as teachers, but we will leave as students.
I think as a person, I just grew immensely. And as an artist, I know that the different things that my eyes have seen and my ears have heard are going to mix into choreography that I do. I went there to South Africa and I did a completely different genre in terms of drama and sets and storyboarding that I had never even done before.
It just broadens the experience. It broadens the palette. It shows me pieces of the world that I was unaware of.
But what some of these kids found out was that, whoa, I really love music. I want to do more with percussion. Oh, I'm totally into, this video stuff. Or I love science. Like that it's all connected and that they can basically do whatever they want.
Their behavior is different and has changed since when I first met them. How they interact with just regular everyday folks, how they interact with their parents.
They need to go someplace opposed to you always telling them what it's like someplace else. And I think that if they went someplace else, I would just love to see how they would be when they came back home.
They've got their cell phones, they've got iPods, and so the world has opened up to them in that way. But it's mainly, for me, it's on a superficial level. You get a lot of information that way, but you don't get the real heart information. But to be able to sit with someone and be in a workshop and have an exchange, a real human exchange, through music, through dance, through human contact. First of all, it's healing. It's the best kind of education that any of us can get. You can't beat that. You can't get that from an iPod. The U.S.-South Africa Artist Exchange was a huge success. But this was just a beginning. This experiment of artists and activists and youth working together across the world must be repeated. It's too important. This work changes lives.